Greg, good to see you. Thanks for
Good
coming
to
on.
see you, Rich.
So, had a little conversation before we get started there. It's funny. I think those conversations are better than the ones we have sometimes.
Probably. We should have pushed record on that one.
Exactly. so let's just get right to it. Where'd you grow up? I know a lot about you, but not a lot.
Oh, where I grew up in the village of Floral Park.
Okay.
So that's like right on the on the Queens border.
Were you on
right?
the Queen side or the
On the Nassau side in the
on the Nassau
village?
side.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So born there and raised?
Yeah. Well, when I was real little, I think I was born in Plainview, but we were only there for like 2 years, 3 years, and then we had moved to Floral Park.
What made you
That's
move down instead of what made
my parents? They decided to move. They like Floral Park.
I moved down there and then moved back?
Well, it's further to the west. It's closer to the city.
Okay.
Plainview is a little bit further out east.
Was Dad a cop too, or was Dad a cop?
No,
or?
no. My
Okay.
father was an engineer.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're in Floral Park. Where'd you go to school?
I went to Sewantica High School.
Okay.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then
And
go
then I
college?
went to John Jay College. I started out in Nassau, then I went to John Jay, and that's where I got my degree there.
You finished your degree in John
Yeah.
Jay?
Yeah.
It's funny. I dropped out in junior year, I think, senior year.
Yeah.
And then with the police credits, it put me over, but they weren't. It was some of the same shit we took.
Yeah.
Like the social science.
Oh, yeah,
and all that
absolutely.
was
Yeah.
psych, I guess, right? And they credited that 28 credits. And
Yeah.
so you had a degree before you were?
No, I finished my degree there because I needed to get promoted. So at that, I needed my full degree. So that's
Okay.
when I kind of finished up everything too.
So we needed a full degree to?
Well, for the sergeants, I took the sergeant's test, so I needed a degree there.
All right, let's get into that. Let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit. Well, like when you graduated high school, you went to college, and then right from there, did you do any odd jobs, or did you
Yeah,
get
I worked for an X-ray company. So
Okay.
I was fixing X-ray machines when I was a kid. We're doing that X-ray processors and stuff on that line. But everything was geared towards I wanted to be a cop. So I was on the list. Back then,
So you were like me, yeah.
Yeah, like when it took a long time to
Looking
get
to
on the
achieve.
job. I remember, I think my list was like 28,000 people
Wow.
at the time, right? And then, you had to be at the top of that list to get hired within,
Imagine
3
that.
years.
When did you
right?
take the test?
Oh, jeez. I got hired in 93, so I took it like 4 years before that.
So you were on, what were we on, 9006?
I think I was 9006.
And then it was 80.
9007, so I forget.
whatever that
That's
was.
a long time
That
ago,
was
but
a
I
very
think it was
long time.
9006 or 9007, something like that.
'Cause I was on 8150, 9006. So I got hired, I think it was 92. And I was in the midnight class. You weren't in that class.
No, I got hired the next year after
the
that.
next
Yeah,
year.
6 months after that, I think, right?
You were big class too, though, right?
Yeah.
What'd you guys have, 3,000?
Yeah, 3,000, 3,400, something like that.
So you were the same as, that's when they went into that hiring promotion thing where they wanted
Yes.
to hire everybody,
Yes.
right? And then,
Yeah, they were short on cops.
that's right. That was after,
Yeah.
that was Dinkins we were
It
still
was
on.
Dinkins, yeah. The city was a disaster at that point.
Still is now again.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
fixed
Well,
it
it
up
got
and then-
better once Giuliani came in and took care of everything, right?
That's right. We cleaned it up, and
Yep.
then they switched it over. But
Mm-hmm.
so you got hired on. So I was 9006 because it was funny. They took the top of the list for housing and then transit. I went back around.
Mm-hmm.
They told me because I think I picked housing. We didn't. It was a lottery, like where they took wherever you got. We didn't get to pick where we wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
With my class, you had it was either. You got
Yeah.
selected housing,
Yes.
transit, and then
Yeah.
wherever
Same-
they picked you.
Same thing with me.
Same.
I think I was the last class to do that, where they like you had to they could take anyone. You could go anywhere.
I
anyone else,
lateraled
right?
over with your class. So I was the lateral group
Yeah.
that was with you from housing. So I got picked up by housing and transit.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny. I played a hockey game the night before in Long Beach Arena against housing the day I was picking, where they were
Yeah.
not gun and shield, where they were swearing you in. And Joe Cornelli, I don't know if you know him. He was a lieutenant, but he was, I guess, the captain of the squad for housing back in the day. And he said, if you come to housing, I'll hook you up.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if I go to city, I got my own, my own little rabbi there. And I decided, let me see. I said, because he wanted me to play hockey with him. And I turned around and I said, all right, we'll see. All right. So transit calls me first. Housing calls me. He literally called me when we were there saying, if you pick housing, let me know now where you want to go. So I told him I wanted to go to PSA 8 in the Bronx because I couldn't go to 9 because I lived in Queens, and you don't want to shit where you eat, So I went to the Bronx, and probably the best year of my life. Housing, that was the best kept secret.
Oh yeah. No,
you didn't go to that. You went right to
but
PD,
I know
right?
all the stories.
Oh,
I know all the stories.
Great time.
Yeah.
When I left, it was so funny that I get out, and the day before I'm lateraling, we collar a guy, and he gets caught with like another 10 vials of crack in his jacket down in Central Booking. And the lieutenant comes to
And
me.
you missed it, saying?
We didn't miss it.
Oh, yeah,
He brought that shit in there.
Yeah,
No, he brought it there. Somebody brought it in there. It wasn't us. We did a good job. We were thorough in tossing it. PD tried to pin it on us.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The guy admitted to buying it in the system. Like, he actually bought it
I
at
see.
Central Booking. And they were trying to pin it on us. And our lieutenant, he covered us, did all of this. And he said, look, when you go over to Big Brother, this shit stops. You would have got 30 in a year for that. And I was like, 30 in a year for missing something? He's like, yeah. So he not begged me, but they wanted to keep us. They didn't want us to leave, even though the lateral came a little while later. Yeah. And I remember your class in there, and they made us do like 2 weeks in the academy with you guys, like back in shit, just to sit there to, I guess, get acclimated towards NYPD and all of that crap. I think we had to go through IAB and all of that shit again. Yeah. And then we went on our way, and I got the 2-3. So what was your academy like? Was it as cool as ours? Was it?
It was a lot of people, and right? Yep. It was just, there was no room in the locker rooms.
Showers were horrible.
Yeah, bumping,
Yeah.
This is just really,
horrible.
it was terrible.
And then, so you go to the academy in '93.
Mm-hmm.
You get out, I guess, the summer.
Yeah. Yep.
You come out in the summer. What do you end up getting assigned to?
I into the 8-3 in Bushwick, Brooklyn. Yep.
No.
8-3.
What year is this?
93. Yeah.
Oh, so you got out because I came on in '92. I got out in '93.
Yeah.
You got out of the academy in '93.
Yeah, I went out in '93, but I was still out. Yeah, '93. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Summer of '93.
Whatever that was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
And then you get to the 8-3, and then what's that like? Is it culture shock because you're a Long Island boy coming into?
I guess a little
Brooklyn?
bit. It was a little bit. It was rough back then. You know that. I mean,
8-3 was a tough place. What the 8-3 cover?
Well, Bushwick.
But it was just Bushwick, and that's it?
Yeah, that's it. Small, it was small command. It really wasn't that big. And, butted up against Queens, and then, went down all the way to, was it Broadway, like where the L is, like past Bushwick Avenue?
Sure.
And, went from Flushing all the way down to, like, up to the 113. And I'm sorry, the 103. Oh, not the 103. What was that?
106?
106, I think.
Well, 105.
No, not 106.
Maybe the 105?
No.
Or the 105?
No. I forget what command
Middle
was on
Village,
the other side.
wasn't it?
Yeah, Middle Village is on the other side. Yeah, but it was small
That's the
command, but it
104.
was really bad back then.
Bushwick was a rough area. When did it start to switch?
After I left, because it was bad when I left.
So how long were you in Bushwick for?
So I was there from '93 to I think '97. I went to street crime.
So in that time,
whenever the Diallo shooting was. Remember the Diallo
yeah,
shooting?
that was 98, 97?
97, something like somewhere around then. Yeah,
that was.
I'm so bad with time and years.
Yeah, me too.
I really do. And as I get older, it just gets
So
worse.
were you in street crime? I know. You
Yeah.
forget it. I can remember what today is. Were you in street crime when the Diallo shooting went down?
I was just got there. Yep.
Were you in the Bronx or were you?
No, so
Queens?
I was in Cage, citywide anti-gang enforcement, fell under street crime.
Okay.
So we covered the whole city. We weren't in a borough.
Oh, you covered everywhere.
We covered everywhere. Street crime, but we just had a different agenda. We went
Where'd
after
you turn out of?
Randall's
Randall's
Island.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
And then was Richie Romano there when you were there?
Richie Romano.
He was in the gang unit, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Everybody loves Raymond's
Sounds-
brother?
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
fucking boss.
Yeah, he was a sergeant though.
He was a
Yeah.
sergeant.
Mhm.
Great guy. He worked
Yep.
with me for a while. He was my boss in the 2-3.
Yeah.
Great guy. Awesome dude.
Well, the whole show was like about him.
It was. He was on it a couple times too, Rich.
Yeah.
So you end up in the 8-3. What made you just got assigned there? You didn't. Is
No,
that where
I
you
wanted to
come?
go there. Young, you know,
Wanna
wanting
see
to
what
kind
it's
of,
like.
you wanted something busy, and I wanted that, you know.
That wasn't no. Dow was the 7.5, right?
7.5 is right next to us. Yeah.
So you were
we touched the 7.5 to 7.9 on the Brooklyn side,
okay.
and then a 104 on the Queens side.
That's
Yeah,
right. That was
104.
Middle Village. Yeah, that
Middle
was
Village,
Juniper Valley Park and all that
Yes.
shit. And then Michael Dow was already gone. He was locked up already.
Yeah, Michael Dowd. Yeah,
He was 92, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Where he got jammed up
Yeah.
and collared that piece of, you know what?
Yeah.
Was he dealing with the 832 or was it just the
No, I don't think that. I think it was more a 7.9 thing, right?
7.5?
7.5, 7.9. That
7.7, I think, right? Because 7.7 were the what the hell were those guys called again? The boys.
Yes.
Oh God, what the hell were they called?
I know what you're talking about it. It's right.
Yeah,
You're right.
It's on the tip of my, some like a
Some
big,
boys,
yeah. And that was 90 or 89, and then
Yeah.
because I remember in a 2.3 to 3.2.
I worked with some of those guys because they didn't get collared, but they got in trouble, and they transferred them all over different commands.
From the 7.7 or from the
yeah,
7.5
that boys thing. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever that
Midnight
group was.
Boys or whatever it was.
Whatever it was. Yeah, we got it with
I'm gonna remember in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna
tell me, text me to it. Yeah, exactly. That's what normally happens.
Yeah.
We had the 30-30
Right. Yes.
when it was in the 2.3, and they started asking people if you wanted to get transferred to the 3.0.
You worked up there? And
I was in the
that's
2.3.
Yeah. Do you know any of those guys?
I knew a couple of them.
Smolinski.
Yeah.
Remember that guy?
Yep.
I worked with him. He didn't get collared.
Smolinski was a sergeant though, right?
Yeah, sergeant. And he ended up a sergeant in the 8.3. I worked with him.
He ended up in the 2.3 too, I think.
Maybe.
I think he was in the 2.3.
Yeah.
From the 3.0, I think it was, to the 2.3, and then we had Nannery, who came wearing a wire. That prick.
Yeah.
He was trying to, that was, I remember being in the bar after a day tour for the 12 and button up and like, why are you asking me that? Like,
Rich, you're really bringing up a lot of memories
I know.
for me.
It's
you
crazy,
know how long
right?
I haven't talked about this stuff in a long time.
I know, me either. It's funny. That's why I was looking forward to having you on, because you have these good conversations. But that was 96, 97, I think it was, with well, probably a little later. God, it goes back. And now we're already 25, shit, because I would have retired in 2012. Got out in 2000. I got 3/4. You didn't get 3/4 though, right?
No.
So your career goes street crime?
Yeah, street crime. I got street crime. Well, I was in gang youth, street crime, that whole thing. Then we went to the detective bureau to narcotics, but as part of the gang unit, like kind of merged with the
Were
gang
you able to
unit.
get your shield out of that? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, you what? Not street crime though.
I got it during street crime.
But you
got
got it
street
because of street crime, or because I thought street crime wasn't a shield place.
It wasn't, but they gave us a shield after that whole shooting.
Oh, okay. With Diallo or before Diallo?
It was after Diallo. Yeah, because of that.
My
I'm pretty
captain
sure I
worked for the
forget what it
Diallo
was.
shooting. He was the CO in the 4-3 when that happened. Great guy too, Mike Caruso. Really good guy, and he just got.
Yeah, they ended up promoting everybody in street crime.
They did,
after
right?
that, yeah.
Because that was a good. It was a clean shoot.
Right. Yeah.
Just
Well,
in my
they
mind.
promoted everybody, but then we all kind of, after a while, got taken out of street crime because street crime was no longer.
Did you get disbanded? Or?
Yeah. Yeah. So we went to the detective bureau,
Okay.
and we still did the gang stuff there. We did gang, narcotics, and
Still
all
out of
that.
Randall's Island, or
No, we turned out at a 106.
okay? Who turned out at a 114? Was that
That
inspections?
was later on, and I turned out of there also.
Who did?
I turned out of there also. So first we went to the 106, then they changed the unit up, then we went to the 114.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we ran the gang unit.
The
Same
114,
thing,
right?
out of the 114 also.
Upstairs in the
Correct.
114, right?
That's where I was, yeah.
And then
Then I got promoted after that. Then I got promoted to sergeant.
okay. Well, you gonna get? Did you get your shield, or you didn't get your detective
Yeah.
shield, or?
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
you
I
had
did.
your detective
Yeah.
shield, and then
Yeah,
you got
yeah.
promoted. And then what year did you get promoted?
Oh, Jesus. That's a great question. If I was a sergeant, a great deal in my career, probably 15 years of my career. So
Really? Oh, so you got on quick.
Yeah.
Smart man.
So let me think really hard. I know what it is. I got promoted in 2000 to sergeant.
Okay.
Because
you would have got promoted with me then.
because I went
Funny.
then I went from upstairs to downstairs in the 114.
Wow.
Because now I know I was a 1-year sergeant, and then you had 9/11 happen.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
so I probably would have been in your same sergeant's class because I got offered in 2000. They all came at once. Bureau,
Mm-hmm.
3/4 was on the list.
Yeah.
Well, really, the sergeants and
Yeah.
the 3/4. And obviously I took the 3/4 and got off. I have to.
Absolutely.
Because I thought maybe the heel with the heel, I can go fix my knee up, be a sergeant for 3 years, and then get tired.
Oh yeah, to get one.
Didn't work. They told me, no, you're not going to get it
that's
after
gonna
this.
be too much.
It's going to be really too hard to do. So I was just like, all right, goodbye. So how did you end up in the 114 again from being upstairs? Why were you allowed to stay there?
Well,
you getting promoted,
so
right?
my boss upstairs, we did a great job. We were doing search warrants, we were doing all that kind of stuff. And the boss downstairs at the time in the 114 CO, he says, just take him. He's getting promoted.
Oh,
He'll
wow.
be an excellent sergeant to fill, those spots that you need. So I literally was on patrol for like 2 months, and then they put me in a specialty position
In the 114.
Yeah.
So so how many sergeants would get, because there's only a couple, whatever they need, right? That's how they hire the bosses, right? So wherever you needed.
Yeah, so I mean, we had probably 17, 20 sergeants at the time in the 114. Yeah,
That's a big command too, right? The 114?
yeah.
Those cover.
Yeah. Some of the guys were not happy that I just went from upstairs
I'm
downstairs,
surprised,
off of patrol in 2 months. But
Can imagine. Yeah, that's why I was surprised that they would do that. So 114 covered from Woodside,
all of Astoria. Yeah,
all the story down to Long Island City.
yeah, Long Island City, and that's probably about it.
Right?
Yeah.
That was a big command, though. Is that bigger than the 108? Or because you butted with the 115 and the 108, I guess, right?
150. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right, because that was Jackson Heights.
Yeah.
And then the 108 was Long Island. My nephew worked in the 108 and then went to the 111 as a sergeant. And now he's in Freeport.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah.
he went from the 108 to the 111 to Freeport, and he believes Nassau is the toughest place he worked. So Freeport's the busiest place, the busiest command that he worked. And it was interesting. I don't know if you saw this last week, but there was a shooting in the 111
Oh wow.
where suicide by cop.
Oh, I did. I heard about that.
Yeah. And I was telling my nephew the story. One of the stories I had when I was on the job, I had somebody do that with us. And one of my sergeants, Delmonico, Blinky, we used to call him, he actually talked me down from shooting a guy. And I was so grateful because the guy was, we were standing there, he had a sawed-off 38, and then he had something tucked, like another old 38 in his waistband. Guy was like 78, 79 years old, clueless, and he's just sitting there. And I remember at one point, I'm on the one side of the wall in the projects, he's on this side, and I'm lefty, but I'm a righty shot. And I'm sitting there saying, boss, I'm taking him out, because he freaking literally fucking raised his hand, cocked back, and I was like, oh. And he actually talked him down somehow, and the guy came to his senses, thank God, because that would have been, all that was going through my mind. Cop kills guy, grandfather of 15, great-grandfather of 8, and it's like, how do you know? And that's literally, because I don't know if you've ever been in those situations, but you get total tunnel vision. It's it's crazy when you're put in that situation, and what your heart rate goes up to and comes down to is insane. What's the craziest story you have in patrol or as a sergeant?
Oh, well, I mean, I got a lot of crazy stories, just like I'm sure you do.
We all do.
Probably the worst one is I'm a World Trade Center survivor.
Obviously.
So that was probably one of the most emotional things for me to endure.
So you're still going through that?
Yeah. I started talking about it maybe 5 years ago.
Yep.
And that's
I never went down there because I was never down there. I refused to go down. And then I think it was 2 years ago was the first time I was by the building.
Yeah. I'd never been back there.
Yeah.
I've never been to the memorial.
Yeah.
I don't want to go.
Yeah, I believe it. A lot of guys are like that. It's I had a lot of regret not being down there because I was retired. And
everybody wanted to chip in. Everybody wanted to do something. It's just that's on nature.
That's right. And I remember calling and they were like, "You're just going to be in the way. If you come, you're going to be hurting us more." And then it was funny. I said, "I'll even cover the desk." And they were like, you can't, you're just going to be in the way on the roll call and all of that shit. So, and it wasn't only me; it was a bunch of us that wanted to go down, and and it was just everybody told me don't come down. It was horrible, and it was, you know. So I could only imagine what you guys went through. I saw all the shit that you guys did, but it was brutal.
Yeah, just being so close to it, you know, because we got mobilized. You know, when that first plane hit, and we're right over.
So you got mobilized right from the get.
Yeah, so that was election day, right?
That's right,
so
yes.
I was one of the sergeants that came in at, like, you know, it started like
5 o'clock,
yeah,
whatever it is,
4 o'clock in the morning, right? So I put everybody out on the post. I had a driver. We'd just, you know, I just go and scratch everybody, scratch their books, and that came over the radio. And
How did that come over?
came over. There's a plane hit and hit the tower. You know, came over the radio, and I'm like, this doesn't.
Why did it come over in Queens?
It came over on Citywide.
Oh, that's right. You're
Came over on
Citywide.
Citywide.
That's
Yeah,
right,
came over on Citywide radio. So I said, Matty, is this guy Matty Walsh, great guy. He actually works in Garden City Police Department. I think he's still on the job.
Okay. No, I'm Matty Walsh.
Yeah, and is he in Garden City? Because
I remember from the job though.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I said, Matty, let's go down to the water right there, because we were down in like a story house, and I go right down. We drive down, and there's like, oh my gosh, there's a plane crashed into the building. So I said, let's go back to the precinct. Right, so we go back to the precinct, and now right away they're calling level 4 mobilization. Now I'm an extra sergeant.
Wow.
So they said, you know what, 1 in 8. You know how it goes. 1 in 8 from every command.
That's right.
So right immediately get 8 cops, all from the detail.
I was going to say, what did they do with the election?
They shut it down. They shut the election.
Because that it was just a primary. Or
yeah, exactly. It was local. Like
Yeah.
I remember, it was local people. You know. Politician type stuff.
Yep.
They shut everything down. I took 8 people from off the post. We got in the van. We're going over the Triborough Bridge. Triborough Bridge right there. Second plane hits right when there.
So it flew over you guys, pretty much.
I didn't see it, but it came over the radio. We're on the. I remember I was right in the middle of the bridge when the second plane hit. Then of course we get down to, you know, the Brooklyn Bridge. You know how it goes.
Sure.
Yeah. Give me a roster, and they say, go to the World Trade Center side of, get to the World Trade Center side of the building. And I'm like, how are we going to get there? How are we going to get to the World Trade Center side? And then now I see everybody running out. I'm talking about, I see the police commissioner, I see the mayor, they just cross our paths going the other direction. I guess they went to evaluate it, and I was like, it's really bad. And then
they got mobilized. They put the mobilizations. Where was it, in the Amex, or was it was originally in the Trade Center building? One of them, right?
That was the command center. That was after both buildings came down. That was in the McDonald's building or Burger King or whatever.
Is that what they?
Yeah, but
wasn't it mobilized in, because Port Authority was in there, right?
Well, our mobilization point was at the Brooklyn Bridge.
Okay, so you got mobilized to Brooklyn Bridge, but they had a command
center.
I thought there was a command center in the Trade Center too.
Not in the. It's a 3-story building. It was where either Burger King or McDonald's was.
Okay,
we took over that whole thing. Yeah, fire department, police department, everybody was in there.
Okay,
but that was like after both buildings fell
down.
Yeah.
Okay,
because that wasn't even a safe place. That's how close it was.
Yep.
At the time, that was not even a safe place to be.
So you get mobilized. You're down by the Brooklyn Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Take your van and go to wherever now. Mm-hmm. What? Take me through that now.
Now we're going up through City Hall, you know, and now the first building comes down.
Oh, so you're driving now towards there?
Well, no, we're walking now. We're on foot.
We're on foot,
trying to get to the other side. Now we definitely can't get to Wall Street, because Wall Street, now that building came down. So now we just started to go to rescue towards the opposite side of the building, but we had all these people coming out. And I remember there was a lieutenant that was just absolutely covered
in soot,
and he was bleeding, and it was chaos. But I thank God that we stopped to take care of this guy at that point, because if we would have went a little bit further, we probably wouldn't have got far enough away from the second building that came down.
Oh, wow.
Because we were right next to it, but we would have been around the other side.
That's crazy.
And so we stopped, and that half an hour that we spent with him, or 20 minutes, until we got him medical attention. And then we started to go around the other side of the building because people were still evacuating and jumping and all kinds of stuff, crazy stuff. And then we were able to get around the opposite side of building 7. So building 7 was where we had a
Command center.
not command center, the what do you call it? OEM.
Yes,
Office of Emergency Management. It was brand new in that building. It was 50 stories. We managed to get behind that building to save us from the brunt of that second building coming down.
Again, I know when they told me to take you back to this, how brutal was that impact when you got hit with that fucking dust cloud?
Rich, it was you didn't know you didn't even know what was going on.
It's like the end of the world, I'm assuming. Huh?
Yeah. Like I'm trying to figure out what else is going on. It was crazy. It really was.
Insane,
yeah.
It was, because you could, you don't know what you do in those situations, right? Because again, our natural instinct is to just run.
Yeah. Well, that's what we did.
And get people and save people,
Yeah.
and and I know people appreciate it, but it's not appreciated enough to realize what Again, you put that image in. Imagine police commissioner, at that time that was it Carrick or was it Bratton?
It's Bratton.
It was Bratton?
Yeah.
So these guys are running away,
Yeah.
and you're running towards it, and all of this shit's happening, and you're going.
Well, I know what they're doing. They're evaluating what they need to do. They're not gonna. I get it.
Yeah, me too. I get that. Yeah, you expect it, but you imagine that people are running away, and you're running into it. It's borderline insane when you think about it. My partner has her sister was she was with cancer, and she would say unfortunately, but fortunately, I think from stories that I got is from what I was told. You'd have to listen and talk to Jeannie about it. Was she missed her train that day, and she was never late to work a day in her life, and the whole thing was like. When you talk to Jeannie, she went to a medium a couple of weeks prior to that, and they said your sister's going to be rewarded. And
there you go.
And that was and I remember Jeannie telling me her sister said, "Well, some fucking reward, because now you got that on your mind, because you got guilt, I guess, from not being in the building or whatever." It's crazy what goes through people's minds when you go through this shit. God bless it. The one thing I regret, and I still say it to the day, is I wasn't there, and I wasn't able to help out all my brothers and sisters down there that were there, and but you also thank God that a lot of people, everyone I knew, really was safe at that time, and it was the effects to today that got my ex-partner, Frankie, may he rest in peace, from the cancer and a lot of bullshit. You don't know what really goes in. So, how long were you down there for?
3 months, 4 months, probably.
And just digging and doing that shit. And then when'd you get called off and where'd you go?
What, after World Trade Center? Yeah. Like when did I get out of the 114?
When with the World Trade Center, you get out of that, you go into, you're still in street crime or not street crime?
No, I was in a 114. Yeah, in a 114, and then from that point, I went in 2006, I believe.
Well, let me ask you something. Let's stay there for a second.
Yeah.
When you get assigned to the 114, every day going back to the Trade Center, did you go to the 114 first, or did you go right to the Trade Center? Like, did you guys know where you're going to be deployed to?
It depends. Some days you went straight in. Other times you went to the command first. It was easy for us to go to the command.
Yep.
Because it was it's on the way. The bridge is right there. You go down, go down and
get your shit and
it's
go.
easy, yeah.
And then you're going down with the company vehicle, obviously. You're taking that across and all of that crap and then coming back. You're doing that for 3 to 4 months now.
Yeah.
How was patrol during that time?
Listen, everybody loved the cops at that point.
So it got a little better.
Yeah, everybody really appreciated the cops because of what we're enduring and what's going on. Everybody forgot about everything else.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah. But you know what the weirdest thing is, too? You go downtown, I remember, and obviously to get something to eat, there was plenty of people that donating food and all that, but if you went uptown Manhattan, it was almost like just tourism. People were still just like doing everything, like nothing's happening. Meanwhile, if you look, you could see the building still smoldering.
That's insane.
And to me, it was like strange. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like,
It
do
is.
you realize what's going on right now?
And tourism.
Yeah. Like,
Sightseeing.
well,
like,
not only tourism, people going to work.
yeah, it's
It
weird.
didn't stop. Nothing stopped,
That's right.
you know, in that part of Manhattan anyway, obviously.
Where was the cutoff? Like Canal or?
Yeah. Yeah. Once you got out of the area within like 10 blocks, 8 blocks.
It was normal.
Yeah. It was almost normal.
Clubbing and people working.
Yeah. People just like, you know, going to work and people in suits and just, you know.
Jesus Christ.
It still has to continue.
That's right. Life continues. It's
And that's what makes us resilient, though.
right.
New York, right? People
yeah.
just, hey, listen, go.
Anywhere it happens, I think they would
Yeah.
step up and it would be the same way. It would,
Yeah.
you know, the same thing happened to the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Not as big, obviously, but
I'm going to go into one more amazing thing, though.
Yeah.
I remember because I was there right from then, and we were there till the next day. I mean, we were there another 24 hours before we even went back to the command.
okay.
But you had cars, you had police cars and fire from all over the United States just
Pretty cool.
coming, rolling into Manhattan. It's like people went and said, you know what? That's it. We're going to gas up and we're going to go to support. And you have
Imagine that ride coming
police
from
cars from
California.
everywhere. Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
LA coming down.
Yeah,
and all
everywhere
that.
from Kansas and like Missouri and like cars from everywhere.
It's insane when you think about it.
Yeah, it
Fire
was actually too
departments
many
from-
people. You know,
Yeah.
like there's, you know,
That's what I heard.
it was not. I mean, too many people, too many cars anyway. But it was good to see it. you
Oh,
know?
it's great to see
Yeah.
and know that support that you got. It must be amazing to get that. Thank God it was just contained to that area. So it's kind of amazing when you get that kind of support, and there must be some feeling to see that. And you must wonder, though, you know, when it goes away, like what the fuck happened? Like,
Yeah.
because it goes away like that too, right? As quick as it, you know,
Yeah.
quick as it's there, as quick as it goes away.
Yeah.
It's a strange place to be, I guess, and that's the psyche of a lot of people don't understand the psyche of a cop, a fireman, anybody that's in that kind of position.
Yeah.
What you
Well,
go
it's,
through.
it's cyclical like anything else,
Yeah.
right? It comes in that big oscillation.
That's
It
right.
goes up and down.
That's right.
Right? Oh, yeah. Listen, we really need the cops. Really need the cops. No, we don't.
That's right.
Until things get really bad.
That's when you need us.
And that's what happens. It's got to get. I always say, I tell my wife all the time, like, how's this going on? Like, why is this? I says because it's got to really get bad
Before
they say, hey, listen, I need your help.
that's right.
And then and I think it's going on right now.
I think so. I
I
agree.
think it's going on right now,
I
right?
agree.
Because there's a lot of crime going on. Probably like, I don't know if it was bad when we were first on the job. I can't tell because we're not there. We can only hear what's going on.
It's different.
It is different. Yeah.
So today
Crime.
back in the day, you know, and a lot of people don't realize this. We had control, and in order to really police a city, you need control. At least that's
Yeah,
what I think. You have to
absolutely.
be able to control it. And I don't think people understand that. And you know, unfortunately, you have to do things that other people aren't willing to do to get things done, right? So again, you were saying before, where it got to get really bad. I don't have to tell you. You know this more than I do. Definitely because you're on a lot longer than I. You get a dispute, family dispute. You're there. The woman's screaming for help. The husband's screaming for help. Whatever it is, and you go and you separate them. Next thing you know, somebody's jumping on your back. The ones that were separating. It was just like, you know, family's family. They don't realize the situations we're put in.
We've had cops get killed
Yeah.
in family disputes like that.
Yeah.
Multiple.
Multiple times, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's horrible. It just happened not too long ago in what was that, the 3-2? Where those two guys went in and there was the corrections
Yeah.
or whatever I think it was the CO, I think it was that killed them. Or,
Yeah.
so people don't realize how dangerous our job is and still is. It's, you know, and, you know, and then with all of these cameras and everything else, like, you know, people don't understand what needs to be done. But, you know, people can bitch about it.
Yeah.
But when it's, you know, when it's done, they want, you know, everyone wants to be a Monday morning quarterback and can't have it both ways. And, you know, that's the thing I'm grateful for, that I don't have to police. It was funny this morning that for some reason I got up and I was like, man, I wish I was going back to the precinct for some reason. I don't know why. It just hit me. I think it was today or yesterday morning. I was like, God, just to, you know, that walk to the precinct, get in, go downstairs, fuck around a little bit. You know, you don't know what's going to happen. You know, you're going to get hit with a fucking glass of water or somebody's going to, you know, something's over your locker. You know, the stupid shit that will go on.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
the guys
No, the
did.
clowns were always
Oh
fun.
my God, it was hysterical. It was, you know, some of the shit that was done. I remember stupid shit going to the restroom and somebody, hey, you want company? Looking
Oh
over.
yeah, looking over the top. Oh yeah, that was a
It
commonplace
was just a
thing.
normal thing. You know, shut the lights off, hit you with fucking whatever. It was just, it was a lot of fun. So you end up becoming a boss, and you end up doing what you're doing. Where do you go from there?
I ended up going to Taru in 2006. Yeah,
That
So
must have
then-
been interesting. We had some
yeah.
great. That's in the beginning of it too. Tell everyone what Tyro is.
So we dealt with a lot of different facets of technology, really. Hostage negotiation and all the setup and all the preparation to help the negotiators out. All the telecommunications, all different equipment used to help hostage jobs. People say, "Hey, listen, how many hostage jobs are there?" Because they think of like somebody like taking over a plane or something.
Yeah.
It's not only about that, man. It's this
Pushing robberies, whatever.
You get 3-4 hostage jobs a day.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is, somebody barricading themselves in a house with someone else because either somebody's after them or the cops are after them, whatever it is, whatever the situation. And it's your job to get them out safely.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously with us and ESU, hostage negotiation team, we all work together to go ahead and get those people out safely. That was one facet of things. Then
How much training do you have to go through for that?
Oh, we did a lot of training. It was constant training.
It was,
yeah. Taru's a constant training type thing.
You training with ESU? Who you training with?
Yeah, you train with ESU. You train. You go to
Everybody.
everybody. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes we did citywide stuff. Like you bring, borough commanders in, and so if we have a situation, because every large scale situation, Taru would pretty much go to.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now, what was the main? Okay, so you just tell us what that is. What else did you guys do with the technologies? Because you're setting up cameras all over the city, right?
So like every big job, like police involved shootings, terrorist activity, whatever it is, anything to do with camera systems, bugs, wiretaps, all that. That's what we did. Tracking vehicles. Things have changed now, obviously. But technology changes so quickly. Some things we use and we don't have to use anymore because technology just took it over.
Correct.
We did all the telephone tracking.
That's
what I
ended.
ended. The last 3 years in Taru, I took over the telephone tracking. So they did all the wiretaps in the city, and we did all the cell phone tracking. So squad would call up, "Hey, listen, we got a guy wanted for a homicide. We got his cell number." We go up on the cell number, and we track that phone. We'd be able to track that phone until it's me to you, right?
Yep.
We're gonna get that close to that guy.
Now,
Well,
how
bro.
hard was it to deal with the phone company? Well, you probably didn't have to deal with it the way the
Yeah.
squad did you?
Well,
to
no.
open up the warrants or
They would get the warrant, but we would put the wire up, or we'd put the track up.
How hard was it dealing with like Verizon and all of those?
It all depends on the situation.
Okay.
So if it's an exigent situation, there's exigent circumstances.
Easier to do.
There's liaisons to all of the phone carriers, and they're all law enforcement liaisons.
Okay.
They know, we give them the right language, and they implement it, and they give us the warrant to go up on the phone.
Okay.
So
Because I know sometimes pulling the records from that shit was just atrocious.
sometimes, if it's a real dangerous situation it needs immediate attention, like especially like a suicidal person or a cop just got shot or something on that line, they're going to give us an exigent almost immediately. It's
Okay.
literally fill the telephone call, okay, and then we do the warrant later on because it's exigent, and we go
Correct.
up on the phone because time is going to
Matters.
cost a life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so what's that like different from patrol? Like, what's your, you go to patrol, you're hanging out in a car. Is it the same shit or is it?
No, it's way different.
Is it?
Yeah, it's way different.
We used to sit around and do nothing and just think of ideas on how to abuse each other in the car. You're in the sector car.
That too. Yeah, I guess. Well, it depends on where you're working, really.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, those patrol guys sometimes handle 18 jobs on a tour,
That's true. Yep. Depends on where you
running
are.
from one to one to one, right?
That's right.
And
But then it slows down. And then,
yeah. Well, I
you have
guess
fun.
it could be really slow, but then it could be like everything is,
There's shit's off
and
the
you
hook.
and you're
yeah.
working for 3 days.
That's right. And you never
Yeah.
know. That's the great thing. That was the great thing about that job because you
Yeah.
never knew. Every day was different, one morning or one afternoon, I did midnights.
Yeah.
So especially with housing, it was one day I remember coming in. Why do you guys have 4 dozen eggs in the back seat? It's like, no reason. We're gonna cook.
Yeah.
Next, like the car's getting bombed with freaking eggs from the rooftop. So,
We made potato guns back in the day
Potato
on patrol. You remember the potato
Yeah,
guns?
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, we used to drive around and shoot each other with potatoes.
That's so stupid. Some of the shit that people would only know, and we wonder why we've met us.
Yeah.
But all right, so Taru, you end up going into that, and again, a lot different angles, different cameras, and all of that. So day to day is just same shit every day. Is it, we going out getting the warrant, putting the taps? What else do you guys do? You guys also did the project buildings too, right? Did you do all the wiring of that?
Yeah.
Are you actually doing the wiring, or does somebody else come in and wire it?
That we have separate contractors, but we oversee all those contractors. They're all subbed out.
And then who's manning those towers that are watching those boxes?
That's NYPD.
Okay, so
Yeah,
they got
those.
their own group,
Yeah.
and the precinct handles that,
Yeah.
I guess, at a
Yeah.
precinct level.
Right, you see now,
watching
like
that.
you have all the Argus cameras in Manhattan,
Sure.
right out at the office in Manhattan. You'll see them all over the place, right? Those are all monitored by multiple agencies now, not only NYPD.
Okay.
You got the feds, because
Everybody
the
monitors that,
system is so vast.
But is there
right
somebody
now.
monitoring them at all times?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it just when
they
you
have
need
command center. It's unbelievable.
it? Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay, so was it like that when you were on too? Or?
Yeah.
what?
So they had, they kind of merged everything together. Now, I mean, I'm kind of out of the loop. It's been
Sure.
10 years, but they had the Lower Manhattan Initiative, I remember, and it was the command center handling all of that Lower Manhattan area, and it was incredible, Rich. Honestly, it was so many people monitoring. You got cameras; they could manipulate cameras, look for suspicious activity, whether if it's criminology or terrorism or whatever it is they're looking at. Anything.
It's that easy to catch now.
Well, I don't want to say it's that easy to catch, but you have the capabilities of covering so much territory. Yeah.
So I'm saying, a
Yeah.
lot easier.
And
than
now
we did.
it's tremendous.
Imagine.
They're tremendous, and now they're putting all the license plate readers into it. People are driving by, and their cars goes into a system. So now you got somebody who's a terrorist. Okay, we got him driving this plate.
Pick them up instantly.
You'll be able to track them across the United States.
Right.
Eventually, once all these systems are
You
integrated.
really don't have to follow anybody
Yeah,
anymore.
it all
It
captures
just does it itself. It
Yeah.
just follows for you.
Yeah.
It's it's pretty interesting how back in the day you had to do the work, the legwork,
Yeah.
and now it's just. And again, you're right. I don't want to take anything away from the detectives or anything today, but it has to be. You're just looking at video all day now to figure it out what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
Because again, I remember coming up. They used to say the best place to best place to do anything like this, but you do a homicide is, 5th Avenue and 57th Street. You do it right in the concrete, and you don't leave anything. But now, obviously, you can't do that anymore because everything's on video.
Yeah.
Everything you do is on
Everything.
video. It's
Yep.
crazy what's become. I think it's good.
Yeah.
It helps us, I guess, be safer a little bit, but you still have a couple psychos out there that don't give a shit
Yeah.
and don't realize that.
Yeah.
So, when did you end up? How long did you stay in Tyrell?
I was there 15 years, I think, or something like that, or 13, 12, I don't know, something like that.
Hags worked with you, right?
Yeah,
Mike? Or
Yeah.
Fucking guy.
Yeah.
How's he doing? Have you talked
He's
to him?
doing, I tell you, every once in a while I talk, but he's doing good, yeah.
You gotta mention me. Mention my name
Yeah.
to him. See what he says. Last time I saw him, it was in the 114. Him and his partner, he was working with a female, and I was on Crescent Street and 24th Avenue. No, 24th Street and Crescent and 34th Avenue. There was a bank on the corner, and Mike, I saw him in a sector car, and I jumped right on the fucking hood. And the partner shit up dancing, and Mike's like, "Oh my god!" So I'm spitting on the windshield, and he's like, he's like, "No, he's on the job."
Yeah.
I made him drive me home, but he's a good guy. Wasn't his brother in a shooting or hit by a car?
Oh, he got dragged by a car in a 113. He got hurt
He was
pretty
in the
bad.
113. That's right.
Guy dragged him
He had three
quite
brothers,
a few
right?
blocks.
Mike, there was 3 of them on the job. Or 2?
No, I think it's just him and his brother. I think so, yeah.
His brother worked in the 114 also, right? At one point.
No, it was 113. 130. That's where he got dragged.
I know, but wasn't he a cop in the 114
Maybe.
and then went
Could
over?
be. I don't know. This was before. I don't know.
Mike never made sergeant, right?
No. He was a detective
He
in
was a
Terrell.
detective,
Yeah.
and then his brother was a sergeant, though, right?
Sergeant, yeah.
and Mike, didn't he have a father? Was a
I think his father was on the job, but
Oh,
then he
so
ran
he was
his
a
own
boss?
business afterwards. His father was very successful, man.
yeah, his father was a good. I think I
Yeah.
met him once or twice. The father,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure he was.
He might have went into the security business or something, but
think so.
he's very successful though.
Is he really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And then Mike got hurt too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He ended
Both
up
of them.
both of them. He got 3 quarters also, Mike. Or-
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Did you know Mike Habert?
No.
No, you didn't know him. He was in Brooklyn Homicide, I think.
No.
Another good guy. He was out of Mike was in the academy with me.
Yeah.
Me and Mike, I was in his class. He was fucking psycho.
Yeah.
We had a psycho.
He's a lot of fun, Mike. He's a funny
We had
guy.
John Redmond. We had a crazy group. I think he was the only one in our group. A couple of them made captain. It was John and what's his name? A company sergeant. God, I can't even remember his name. Oh well, yeah. You lose so many people.
Yeah.
But it goes crazy.
It's crazy because when you go to work with all these guys and we're all the same. We're all the same cloth, right? Like Kevin Catalina, right? Kevin Catalina is now the police commissioner for Suffolk County.
It's insane.
He was my boss in the gang unit. You know
That's
what
crazy,
I mean?
right?
And the greatest guy.
Uh-huh.
But he was really good at his job. He really did. He went up those ranks, and man, he hammered it. He was very well respected. He made all the right decisions. And now
Right.
Suffolk County's got him, and they're lucky.
God bless him.
They're lucky to have him
That is
because
good.
he's a great guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You see shit like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's all right. So you go through the job. When did you retire? 13?
10 years ago, something like that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Did you do 20 or a little bit more?
I did 23.
23.
Yeah. So what is that? What does that equal to? 93 to when? What is
You're
I'm
asking me, I
terrible.
don't know, 20,
it? Yeah.
2015, 20,
I did
2016?
20. Yeah, I think it was just about 23.
What made you stay on?
I was building my real estate business.
Okay.
Really,
yeah.
that's what I was doing. So I started my real estate business while I was on the
Yeah,
job.
let's get to real estate. Let's
Yeah,
start.
yeah, that's the important thing,
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And so,
So you're still a cop when you get your license?
oh yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah, that's how I really knew.
Did you have
Hey,
to file
listen,
all the paperwork and all that shit?
yeah, I did. Yeah, they knew I had. I just did it just because you know how the job works. If
Yeah,
you
do a
don't tell
49.
tell them what you're doing.
Yeah.
But it's not conflicting with anything, so it's never a problem. It's not like if you're a security business, that's different.
Yeah.
But no, there was no issues, and that's how I built my business, being on the job. But my sphere of influence was all
Conniving cops.
cops,
You want to
firemen, this one,
You want a good detail today? You want a good post? Buy this house.
Oh
in Long
no,
Island.
we'd be at jobs and be like, "Hey, you gotta sell your house."
Yeah, exactly. That's a
No,
story.
no joke. This is
I
it.
know it wasn't.
Prospecting constantly.
I'll tell you a quick story. One of our guys, I'm not going to mention his name. He was a Pennsylvania state trooper, I think it was. He told me he did 17 and a half years and retired. Right? And he stayed in real estate. And I said, why didn't you wait out the 20? They did the same thing. It's 2.5 more years. What the hell's wrong with you? So he said, I'm literally chasing a guy with a gun. He said, we're chasing these guys. And we end up in a house. And he said, as I'm chasing him, I see foreclosure papers on the table. And I literally stopped and picked up the foreclosure papers. And he said, this is dangerous. I shouldn't be doing this. And at that moment, he knew it was time to retire.
Oh yeah,
That's
oh,
crazy
yeah.
shit. But
Yeah.
I remember going to work, same as you, with a laptop, and they were looking at me differently, though, because, again, I was on, going for 3 quarters, so I'm out sick all the time, and I got this, I'm coming to work upstairs, and I got the laptop out, and people are like, what the fuck is this guy doing, a laptop,
Yeah.
and, at the pound or some shit like that.
Yeah.
So it was a little different, because I was in property management, too, when I started.
Yeah.
So you get
some time. Yeah.
So now, how much time are you on the job when you got your license?
I probably had maybe 17, 18 years on the job at the time.
So you're doing real estate on the side?
Yeah, I started that. I believe it or not, I actually started writing mortgages before that.
Really?
First, I started out writing mortgages, and that was pre-banking crisis.
Okay.
So I started writing mortgages. I was doing really good with that. Then that banking crisis came at the place, and I'm like, well, we're not writing mortgages anymore.
So this is 09 now.
That's like '06.
Oh, 06. Okay.
It was '06 I was writing mortgages.
Okay.
And then,
How do you get into writing mortgages as a sergeant?
I don't know, I just...
Somebody come up to you one day and say,
No. My wife, she was in commercial lending.
Okay.
That's so, and she's like, you'd be really good at like doing that. I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. I went, got my license, did the whole thing, went for the courses, and started writing. Well, it was easy for me, you know.
I'm sure it
It
was.
really, yeah. And then there's all these cops that needed mortgages, you know. But I didn't think of the real estate end that back then.
Sure.
Banking crisis happened, and then that corrected, you know, like 2009, 2010, things started to change around. Then I started to think about real estate again, because I always thought about real estate,
Okay.
like license-wise, because I was invested in real estate. And then I picked up my license. That's when I said, you know what?
So now you're investing before
Yeah,
you get into the real estate. That's interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, rental properties, you know, that type of thing.
Similar, I guess, yeah, it was similar in some way, but I didn't get really into it until I got my license.
Yeah.
You know, that's interesting, though, because most people like us don't get into the investing part until we're
Yeah.
licensed for a little
Because
bit.
we're not seasoned enough.
Yeah.
You know, my advice to people really is listen to people like us that have, you know, because if I did that when I was early, I'm gonna go back to the police department just for a second, right? Now, early in my early 90s, right? There were two guys. They were both sergeants that I worked with, and they were buying buildings in Bushwick. I remember at the time they each had at least 10 to 15 buildings apiece.
Wow.
And at the time, I'm like, oh my gosh, how do they deal with it? I mean, these buildings are disasters. They're selling crack out of them and heroin. And like, you're serious, like this is, like, you know, I know what they, go collect their rent and all that work.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's what it really was.
Uniform, yeah.
But these guys made so much money because you know what those buildings are worth now?
Oh, God, forget about it.
They were getting buildings for like, under 100,000, 25,000. The city was actually auctioning. I know one guy bought one for $5,000.
We got them at $5 a building back in the day with the HCR.
Yeah,
$5,000. Because you were buying zombie
$5,000
buildings. That's right. And fixing them up. Yeah, that's right.
So
that was early 2000s.
I wish that I wish that I was able to get it done back then, but I just didn't have anybody to guide us. Because I remember I was with my anti-crime team in the A3, and it was a 6-family building in Bushwick. And I think at the time they wanted $250,000 for it in early 90s.
God.
We couldn't come up with the money, the four of us. Right?
That's scary.
You know what I mean? Because like,
We need $8
what, are
grand.
you kidding?
You need $8 grand for a
I
mortgage.
just like, you know what this building's worth right now? You know?
So I'm going to trump you a little bit here.
Yeah.
This is going back in 2000, 2001. Brought up the 108. It's before the buildings went up on the water.
Oh, yeah.
I get offered, similar to you, 2 6-families, I think, $450,000.
Oh, my God.
And my buddy Jimmy Conley, I don't know if you know him, he was out of your class. He was the broom in the 108, and he was like, you know, whatever he did, whatever.
I feel like I know him. Yeah.
He's the car guy, you know.
Yeah,
He's one of
I
those guys.
know.
Heavy set guy, great guy. And I used to play softball with the 108 when I retired with their team, so I knew a little bit about the 108. So anyway, I call up, Jimmy, I'm buying these 2 buildings. I forgot the address. Can you help me out? It's infested with fucking crackheads. Nothing we could do. He said, it's going to be like that forever. Don't buy the building. I really want this taken care of. Can you do me a favor? I'll buy you guys a 6-foot wedge, whatever. Rich, as quick as we get them out, they're going to go back in. There's nothing we can do. He goes, I would do it for you, but it's impossible. So I pass on the building. 6 months later, and I don't blame him. This is on me. 6 months later, that same building, the guy that bought it, turned it over for $1 million. Right? So he bought them for $450, turned them over for $1 million. 6 months after that, that guy turned them over for $2.5 because that's when the building started going up because Mayor Koch moved into one of those buildings that, boom, blew it up, and it cleaned up that whole area overnight. So if you had property, and like same thing in Bushwick, if you had property in that prime location in Long Island City, because Long Island City was disgusting back in the day. Down by Queensbridge and all that.
I would say that Long Island City was a better buy than even in Bushwick.
Oh,
that
I would say
area,
so,
absolutely, because they built all those little hotels, like
right.
those boutique hotels and all that kind of stuff.
That's right.
Oh,
But
it's just
Bushwick
amazing.
is still Bushwick, because that's like Little Manhattan now, right? But So I was Long Island City. But you don't know what we don't know. I told my father, like, why the hell didn't you buy like an Astoria when the buildings were $25,000? You can get a house for 25 grand. Like, what the hell were you thinking?
Yeah.
That's why Indiana. So you get into the investing world. You're writing mortgage. You get into the investing world. What's that like? What are you buying now?
So currently.
No, but when you're on the job.
Oh, on a job, I was buying like 2-family houses, mostly a lot of them out of state. Back then I was buying.
You were buying out of state or in state?
I was buying in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I was buying in Pennsylvania.
Why there? Because you could afford them, or
well, no one I could afford them. The rent to own ratio was good.
Okay.
I was okay with doing that, and I also felt that the area would get revitalized.
Sure. Now you're buying in the Poconos. What part of Pennsylvania?
No, Allentown.
Okay.
It was Allentown and the surrounding areas there.
Sure.
I had decided to get out of that market. We sold everything we had, and then we started investing more in New York.
Okay.
From that point, we made some money, but the growth wasn't as much as we wanted it to be.
Okay. But it's still making
and then
money.
I was not as experienced. I'll be honest, I'm not as experienced as I am right now.
Sure.
And
So-
now I could definitely see a little bit different now.
When did you get your license? We were talking about that.
14 years ago, I think.
Okay.
That's right. What, the real estate license?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 14 years
So
ago.
you're still on a
what
job, or
years
you're
Yeah, still on a job.
still on a job?
Yeah.
You get your real estate
Yeah,
license.
I'm retired, I think, 10 years. 10 years.
All right. So 14 years ago, you get your
I'm
license.
bad with the I
Same as
really
me, dude. I don't know.
can't remember dates.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. Yeah,
So-
something like that. Yeah.
You got a ways to go, man. I'm 54. Wait till you
I
catch
am
up.
too.
Oh, you are? I
I'm
didn't think-
54. I'm born in 70.
Me too. Okay, there you go. I thought you had a little bit more time. Wait, 55 is gonna be worse.
Oh, yeah. We could get ARP
Yeah,
pretty soon.
that's scary shit, right? And Julia's sitting there looking. See, but so you get your license. Who are you working for at this point? Are you working
In a real estate license, I started out working with Bonanno.
Okay, so
Bonanno
you're up
real estate,
Bonanno
yes.
and you're selling real estate.
Yep.
What's that like? What did you do your first year?
First year I did amazing.
Did you really?
Yeah, first year I
bless.
did amazing. For not having any business, I started that right out the gate like you should, and go after FSBOs, expireds, and all that. And not only that, I think that seasoning for an agent out of the gate, everybody should do that. My opinion.
I agree.
My
too.
opinion, because you're gonna see people, you're gonna see rejection. Make sure you can handle that rejection.
That's right.
I remember there was a woman. She wanted to sell her house, but she didn't want to sell her house. But I think she just liked me coming to the house to talk to her.
Yeah, she just wanted company.
But all I did was practice on her. I went for 5 listening appointments with this woman.
awesome.
For real.
Was it?
And I would just, I remember telling my wife, I'm just going to practice on this woman. And eventually she's going to sell the house.
Eventually she'll give in. That's right.
And she did, but it was like 3 years later. But it didn't matter. I learned.
You got paid,
Right?
right?
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so you go in, you do pretty well your first year.
Yeah.
Second year, when you retired, did you build up your business enough where you could
did.
just do this now?
I did.
And you're
Yeah, I
full-fledged?
built up my business to the point where I knew I was burning candles at both ends, right? I'm probably making triple my salary, NYPD salary at that point. And I'm like,
What's
the
the use?
money is coming in, but I'm also, again, I'm exhausted at that point. I'm like, this is becoming a lot.
Most of your work cop to cop, or is it?
So, yeah, cop to cop. Or, like I said, I would go with the FSBOs and expireds. Or I would go into, at the time, like, we don't have what we have right now, like dialers
Yeah,
and
of
stuff.
course not. Yeah.
I'd literally grab the phone book and just like
Like me, I used to
start
do
with
that.
A. Hey, listen, you pretty much gotta sell your house. Blah, blah, blah. Just go right down and just do that, because that was the only way that I knew what to do. And training was very minimal in that company. They're great people though. Great people, but I didn't have the guidance
That we
so
have today.
I kind of yeah.
It was a different world growing up,
It,
too.
it
when we got
was.
in
It definitely was. Yeah.
Right. So we get into it. You didn't have the support that you have today.
Yeah.
Right. Today, especially with Keller, that's all I know right now in training is
Yeah.
Keller.
Oh yeah.
And we're known for a training company. But when we came into it, it was, all right, kid, go out and do what you have to do. How compatible is it to the police department, real estate?
How comparable is it?
Do you see any comparisons?
Well, I can tell you that, what I've experienced in the police department, I feel that I do have an edge. I felt like I did have an edge on people, and you're gonna agree to
I do
this
agree with that.
because you deal with every different type of person, right? All personalities, from crazy EDPs to people who are super, super duper intelligent, and everybody in between. And I think if you could communicate with people, you could be successful. And I'm not saying anybody else doesn't have it. I just felt like if I wasn't in the police department, I may not have had that skill, right? And some other people don't have to do it. You know, I'm not saying you have to be a cop to get this skill, but I felt like that was a big plus for me.
Somebody asked me, I don't know if it was Gary or Steve Morris. I know it was a president of one. It was either Exit or Keller. What was your best sales job? And my answer was, you know, they comparing, like, because I did a lot of business like you when I was selling. And what was, give me your best sales moment? And I said, believe it or not, it's when I sold so-and-so, you know, with the fact that he's going to jail for life, and I sold him on a burger and a cigarette.
Yeah.
Just being polite with him. Yeah. And I think that was the best sales part. We were selling people, obviously, like you said, on the job, where when you talk to them, you know, people didn't come up to us. Just, you know, some of them did. You know, some store owners, of course, and, you know, they wanted us there to protect their stores and all that, so they were nice to us. But every time you ran into people, it was not good most of the times. You know, most of the times you were there to give them a summons, you know, lock them up, do this, do that. So it wasn't a really good, you know, even though I did C-pop and I would hang out, it was far in between when you're really dealing with people. So the sales part was the everyday. When you hand somebody a summons, you know, you're selling them the fact that I don't give a shit. You're going to give me a complaint, but you know, I don't want one. Yeah. You know, I don't want to get the reputation of being an asshole.
So you're creating almost a mini relationship.
Correct.
You know,
in that small time. And you know, and if you're a prick to me, have a nice day. Enjoy those 8 summonses, you know, and moved on. But you're right. We learned how to talk to people a little different. What they call it, verbal judo.
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah. And
verbal judo training.
That's right. And I still think I use it to this day, believe it or not. You know, I'm not screaming at people, obviously, but
I do. I know I do.
Yeah. We have to, because it's, you know, it is sales 101, basically, what they teach us.
And there was something else, transactional analysis. Remember that? You know, like these were all different training.
That's right.
On how to speak to people.
In a way that, you know, they could understand. So you get your license, you're in Bonanno. How long are you at Bonanno?
There for about, I think, 4 years.
Okay.
Something like that, 5 years.
And what's that like?
Oh, it was great.
Great
Listen,
time?
yeah, you know, listen, I had great people. It was too small for me at that point. It had nothing to do with them. They're like, it's the great people. In fact, a lot of those people are now currently at our office in Massapequa.
So when did you make the switch over to Keller?
I guess 10 years ago.
Was it that long already?
I think so.
Were you still on a job or retired?
I had just retired.
Okay.
I just retired. And that's how, you know, Michael Brand got me involved.
I was pissed at him.
The
Gave
office.
you the OP position.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I ended up, you know, buying into Keller Williams and becoming the OP. And we were in the other office on Sunrise Highway. You know, that office wasn't working anymore. That's how we have the office that we're currently in right now.
It was Remax, right? That was...
no. Yeah, Michael bought it as a Remax. Right.
That's right.
Yeah, he bought it out as a Remax.
So you didn't buy it?
I didn't buy it with him. He bought it first.
And then Brian did, right?
Yeah, him and Brian.
Okay.
And then they brought me in.
You came in how long afterwards?
Probably not long.
No. And then...
Probably like...
Did you hire the first TL or Mike did?
Mike had the first TL.
That was Joe.
No, that was Lauren Byron.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Lauren was there.
From me.
Lauren actually recruited me to the company.
That's right. Lauren came from me.
Yes.
He asked me, and it's funny, I'd say this story. I had a tough time deciding between Lauren and Linda. And because Lauren was a fucking beast.
Yeah.
She was a beast. I remember with Lauren, I gave her $600. And I said, I want you to get 75 appointments. You can't spend that money. You got to give it back if you don't. And She was up until the last minute. I helped her out, and the last minute she got that 75th and basically gave me the FU sign and took the money, and then said never do that again. She was a beast, Lauren. I love her.
Yeah.
She's great people.
She is great. She is.
And then so then she ends up leaving and goes to Ozone Park, and that's when Joe comes in.
Yeah, Joe comes in.
And
then
then you
Mike
guys,
put her in place though, and then I became the OP.
so you become the OP. What's that like now? Going from police sergeant to an OP, what does that look like? What's the difference in handling it? Right? Handling the day to day as with cops, and then the day to day with real estate agents.
Yeah, it's
and
much different.
it is,
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, it's different. Everybody's an independent contractor. It's a little bit. It's a lot different. But the private industry is so different than the police department. I can't even put my finger on it unless if you experience it. Maybe you could put it into words better than I can.
I think of it this way, right? So we preach accountability so much in the real estate business, right? And I think you'll appreciate this or understand what I'm saying at least. I think we look at being accountable so much. If you're going to make money, you need to be accountable. The police department, we had to be accountable.
Yeah.
You were accountable to all
And
your
that's
actions, and
it.
there's
Yeah.
no other.
You had to show up.
You had to show
That's
up,
it.
right? And you had to do your job. It was, and if you didn't, you had to answer to it, and you might not answer to a boss, but you were answering to somebody else at that point, right? And I always said this too: if you fuck up here, you lose a deal. You f up on the job.
Yeah,
you lose your
get
life.
fired or go to jail,
or lose your life.
or lose
worse,
your life. Yeah,
or somebody else, and it's so you don't realize the level of accountability that we have as cops, combined with sales. I think it makes the perfect real estate salesperson or mortgage salesperson.
Yeah.
So, so I get what you're saying, 100,000% on that. Now, you come into Keller. And now, what is that like? Like coming into that world from Bonanno compared? And again, I'm not trying to compare offices.
It really, honestly, once I made that move, my business doubled and just kept on going from that point.
Okay.
It really did. It really was probably not probably. It is the best move in real estate that I have ever made to come to Keller Williams.
So now, but you were still investing in properties, right?
Yeah.
And to this day, you're still investing.
Yes.
Did you learn how, like when you got to Keller, did that change your outlook on looking at investment properties or not really?
Not really. I kind of brought that on myself, even though there's a lot going on with Keller Williams with that.
Right.
And especially now, even as more years go on in our company, we want people to get involved with that. So I think we're focusing on that more so than it was in the past.
A lot more so.
Yeah.
Right. And then, so now what do you end up doing in that world? You said you went from Pennsylvania to New York. Then where'd you end up going? Because you own in Wyoming.
Yeah.
Right?
So now, right now, we're in New York.
Okay.
We're in Arkansas. We're in Kansas. We're in Oklahoma, and we're in Montana.
Why those states? Easy to deal with?
Well, not only is it easy to deal with, landlord-tenant laws are yes, absolutely. The average rent-to-own stuff also. The Montana property is not a rental property. We did it as a land acquisition.
Okay.
So land acquisition, we bought the land and we subdivided it, and we're selling off the land, right? So we've been selling off the land. We have that for about 2 years.
Who's we?
I have partners with that.
Okay.
I have an investment group. There's 4 of us together.
Is that what's his name?
No,
Alon?
different group. That's
okay.
He's with some of the properties in Arkansas.
Okay.
With Alon.
Another great guy. He's impressive.
And then I have other buildings with somebody else, another guy from the office.
Okay.
So him and I just own it together. And then we own stuff on our own too.
Sure. How many doors do you have right now?
Oh, geez, so we got Arkansas. We got 24, 63, 67. Long Island, we got 12. And then Oklahoma, we just started buying. We just got 1.
Why'd you choose Oklahoma over like St. Louis, Nashville, and
I
Indiana?
like the growth.
Do you really?
Yeah, Tulsa is growing like crazy.
Okay.
And we have another property in Kansas, which is close by that one. And we just looked at it, started looking at it. And
Kansas.
Kansas is more recreational for us. It's got oil wells on it and stuff like that, so we get oil income, but we're not building on it.
Okay.
But the Oklahoma property is only like an hour and a half from there, and Oklahoma is just a beautiful place.
Yeah, I heard that.
It's growing tremendously.
Have you looked into Indiana at all? Or?
I heard a lot about Indiana, but I don't have my claws into that yet.
That's
and
amazing
Indiana's,
growth,
yeah.
That's what I'm looking
And
at.
that's what we really got to look at. Well, Nashville's kind of like it's built. It's like Florida, like there's a lot of people are flooding there,
Right.
and then you want it to break. So I'm looking for places that are that good, that has growth left in it. So it's not only about cash flow; it's about growth.
Sure.
Yeah.
And like picking the Austins of the day.
Yeah.
Back when Austin,
Yep.
took off and looking at that growth, and it was funny. I was just down there a couple of months ago, and I was talking to my broker down there, and we looked at a property, let's say 8 months ago, and this is scary. Austin dropped 20 or 30%.
I know that.
So it was scary, and he said the building that we were looking into to buy dropped 50%. So I was like, wow, you get
They outpriced themselves.
$900,000 for a one bedroom.
Yeah.
And then now he'll probably pick up that same property, $500,000-$600,000.
And they're breaking because of the interest rate.
Right.
And it's not really affecting us here in New York.
But it's affecting them.
It's affecting them because they have the opportunity to build. We really don't.
That's right.
How much can we build here?
That's right. You can't. That's
Until they change zoning regulations like they did in Long Island City, and that's why Long Island City had more building
High-rise.
because they will have the high rise. You don't see that in Bushwick, not yet.
Yeah.
I think they went up to 4-story. That's it.
That's it in Bushwick?
I think so.
Well, East New York, right, was the one that they were allowed to go up?
I'm not sure about East New York. I don't know. East New York's still got some work though.
Well, downtown Brooklyn and all
Downtown
that.
Brooklyn.
That went up, right?
Yeah.
That went the high rises went up, and
Yeah.
they were able to take that.
Yeah.
Williamsburg, I think, put it in, right? So
History repeats itself, Rich, right?
right.
All you got to do is look at what they did in the past. Really, think about it. Especially here. New York market is probably the market that we know the best.
Correct.
Right? You know what the next step is. Go back to the 50s and look at where we are right now. We're in Hauppauge, right?
Yep.
What did this look like in the 50s, right? This building, I don't even know when this building was built, but I bet you wasn't here.
I don't think it was 50s, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. Probably
So-
70s, 80s, this building was built. When you think about it, it's interesting, right?
Just keep on going.
So you get back to the real estate world. You end up with Keller. Take me through that. You're running a team and you're running the office.
Yes.
What's that like?
Ran a team. That was challenging, definitely challenging. Running a team alone is always challenging.
That's right.
Obviously you got to surround yourself by the right people, and you got to surround yourself with loyalty. That could be tough, and
A lot of turnover with the team? Or?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's always to me every team that I ever spoke to since I've been at Keller Williams, because we're the best at it. There's no other company that do it, but we all struggle with the same struggles, and they're not. You can't fix all of that. It's just human nature.
That's right.
They're gonna come and they're gonna want to take and potentially steal, which I've had that. And
What do you do in those situations?
depends really. I'm a throw your salt over the shoulder type guy.
Me too.
Because
It's not worth
okay,
it.
you got me. You know what I mean?
Not going to
Okay,
get me again, but you got me.
Yeah, but you got me, and it's not worth the aggravation.
That's right.
I'm just gonna get another listing or get another whatever it is, or we'll replace it. But I know that happens to everybody.
Oh, without doubt.
And then they say,
People
okay,
just deny it.
Yeah, I say, okay, I could do this on my own. That's because that's what they think, and then it's just not working out for them, maybe, or not working out as good. But that's okay though too,
right.
because I welcome it. I never said, just okay, go ahead, just try not to steal from me.
And when you learn, when you want to come back, you can just start over again. You got to start from the beginning.
Yeah.
I used to, when I did it, it was put my guy in the corner, my assistant, when he wanted to leave. Stand in the corner. Think about what you did when you wanted to come back, So you buy into Keller, you're running the office, and you did a really good job there. I got to give you credit, because that was a tough place. I remember when the conversations we had.
I remember talking to you back then. I had to make some really
hard decisions,
tough decisions.
Better you than me.
It was stressful for me at that time.
Imagine.
Without having to go into great detail
Yeah.
to it. But it was very stressful because you can't have bad people
Yeah, you can.
that surround you. Again, you're only as good as the people surround you, right? And there was some people that weren't.
Happens. So you end up getting the OP position. You're there how long as an OP?
I think I had the OP position a total, I want to say 6 years, maybe 6 or 7.
Was it
something like
that long?
Maybe 6. I think it's 6 years.
And then
6 years.
Because me and you handled the Newsday article together
Yes.
for Keller. That was
Dude,
That was
that
before
took
COVID, right?
3 years, right? Or 4 years, that thing.
a while. Yeah,
That took 4 years.
That went on a long time.
Oh, my gosh.
Still goes on. It's still going on.
Ridiculous.
That was. We'll leave that to another day because that conversations we had was just, and then with our attorneys, it was more talking about basketball. Remember that? That
so
was
crazy.
that was a real cluster.
For agents that got acquitted from any kind of wrongdoings, and we had to pay the price.
It's ridiculous.
Sad.
It really is. It's really another day on that.
Yeah.
That's something it's just ridiculous. But all right, so we go through that. You end up. When did me and you end up in partnership? Is that
2
2
years
years
now,
ago?
I think, right?
It's over
Yeah,
2 years
2
already?
years, yeah.
Time flies, right?
Yeah. Best thing that I ever did.
Worst thing I know. We're kidding.
No, it was the best thing that I think, what you've created in this company is just amazing. I probably think it's probably the best thing in this company. Like,
Appreciate that.
this is modeled. It's we all, this should be modeled off of what has been done in this area, this region.
I appreciate that, and that comes because you work with good people.
Mm-hmm.
But you have, it's funny. I went to Harvey McKay's roundtable with Brandon, and one of the things they asked me was when you come down, because I give all the credit to the people that work with us, and I think they do a phenomenal job, and I think you're only as good as the people you hire, and it is what it is. But Harvey asked me, "What's the one good thing you are? What's that one thing you're really good at?" And I said, "Hiring." And he said, "What's that one thing you're really bad at?" And I was like, "Hiring."
Yeah.
It's like there's no, it's like the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at it, but I'm really good at it. I just don't know. I can't put my finger on what it is that makes me really good and what makes me really bad. And it just comes down to, I think we're a good judge of character. I really do.
Yep.
I think, I think just in our blood. And, but with that, it's sometimes not just character that gets you to the next level. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's a little bit more that you're missing on it. Because I think we, as cops and the positions we were in before this, we look at everything based on loyalty and, things like that. The experience doesn't really matter in some ways. It's more,
And that's really important. The loyalty is important.
It's very important, and it's, are you willing to, sacrifice yourself with me? And it's interesting, and you don't really have that in this world. Right, it's interesting when the police department, and I'm not trying to compare them at all because again, we have it a lot, but at least I do. I feel in my world, I hear a lot of people say they don't, but I think I do. I think agents are very loyal in our world. I think and I think they're loyal wherever, and I would make the same decisions they're making sometimes. It's I would do exactly what they're doing at some points, but it's not like the police department where, again, because you're not on 1099, where you're basically employed and you have to report to people on the job. We're here, and that was the same thing with fair housing. Our thing is we can't tell them what to do.
Yeah,
the general contractors.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting the way the world works. So, would you do? I was always interested in this with you because I think we lived similar lives. Basically, we did live similar lives. Would you do anything different?
I speak to my wife about that. I said, man, could you imagine if I got into real estate and not went into the police department? And she reminds me, we kind of touched on it before.
Yeah.
She said, but you wouldn't be who you are right now. You needed to go through that.
Yeah,
and I believe that.
So do I.
I
agree too.
I do. I believe that I needed to experience that. Me. I'm not saying this is for everybody, but for who I am. I needed to do that and experience it.
When you think about it, the one thing we have is good stories.
Yeah.
Right. So when people don't realize that, we could talk to people. Like you know, me and you go on a listing appointment together would be fucking hysterical because I
Yeah.
don't know who would shut up first, and you know, we'd be just, you know, everybody,
true.
right? Because again, we know how to talk, so it's like, you know, Jeannie looks at me sometimes and just like, shut up,
Yeah.
let me get a couple words, like, you know, just go.
Yeah.
So, but I think you're right. I think we have to go through a certain way, and then you come out, and you know, and you see where you go. But there's a lot of people in the real estate world that are cops, you know,
Yeah.
retired from the job.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You know, what would you say to people today that are retiring? Would you tell them to get into the real estate world? Would you tell them start? Like,
Yeah,
what would
no,
you-
I would, but I also when someone comes to me that way, I also tell them the truth also.
Sure.
This is you can't just expect this because it looks like, hey, yeah, this is a high money game and it's easy. There's nothing easy about this. You have to really dedicate your time and your effort to learning and to implementing everything. You can't just you have to apply yourself. If you don't, you're not going to be successful. So I think there's a lot of people, whether you're a cop or not, that don't really realize that there's effort and time that goes into it. It's not just, hey, I'm going to get my real estate license and get listings and buyers and do all this and, you know.
Make a fortune.
Yeah. You can because the sky's the limit.
Right.
How much do you want to make? You can make it 100%. I don't care what kind of market you're in. If you're hungry enough, you will make as much money as you want.
Where do you see the growth of the real estate market going in the next few years? Do you see it? What do you see with the rates? Like, what's your thoughts behind all this?
Yeah. I can't wait to see when that rate really drops.
What do you think it's going to drop to?
I think for a period of time this year, I think you're going to touch high fives.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, I think, but it's going to be short-lived. And then I'm thinking 6%, like throughout the rest of the year.
Okay.
And you won't see anything lower than that until next year.
26.
Mm-hmm. But I think just somebody seeing a 5, I don't care if it's 5.90.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Just somebody seeing a 5 in there, I think it's going to really pop. So we have all the baby boomers that really want to move. They want to go to their retirement destinations, whether it's Florida or the Carolinas or Texas, wherever they want to go, or Tennessee. You brought up, these are all the places here where they go.
That's right.
And then you go to other countries, other states, their migration pattern is different.
Yeah.
But that's us right now.
See a lot of people moving to Arizona now, too.
Oh, yeah. I remember when we were younger. Remember how many people moved to Arizona, then they stopped, and now they're back to moving to Arizona again.
That's crazy.
So once you get those people off the fence to say, okay, you don't have to pay 7.5%. I'm good at 6 or a high 5. Now's the time because I'm getting old. So I think you'll get a lot of baby boomers put it on, but that's nowhere near enough inventory here.
What do you think that inventory needs to be?
No, I don't think we'll ever reach it.
You don't?
I don't think New York, where we are, 5 boroughs, even in Westchester County, and I was surrounding 5 boroughs in Long Island. I don't think we're ever going to have enough inventory for people,
Interesting.
unless if they change zoning regulations like we spoke about before.
Sure.
But those zoning regulations would be close to Queens, and then maybe trickle into Nassau. Just
I get it.
history repeats itself.
So you don't see it going back into a buyer's market ever for a long
Not for
time?
a long time. I don't think so.
So it's going to remain a steady seller's
Well,
market for...
So when that rate really does drop, right, and it goes, let's say it goes down and stay steady in the 5s, you get all these buyers coming on the market, they're going to amp the prices up again here.
Yeah.
And I'm not. I don't want people that this is not in other states are completely different,
Right.
but here,
We're talking about Long
this is
Island,
we see
predominantly.
what's going on.
That's right.
That market's going to go up again, so your real estate's going to go up. And then what happens after that is really what we need to kind of say, hey, listen, let's just say if we get another pop of 20% over, let's say, this year and next year, that's 20% increase.
It's amazing.
Now what happens? I can't tell because we don't know what the interest rate's going to be. We don't know what the environment is.
Historically, it's always buy real estate.
100%.
Right,
Well, you know
buy.
that trend.
That's right.
Over that 50-year trend, it's 3 to 4% every single year,
right.
regardless. And that goes through the banking crisis.
Everything.
It doesn't matter.
That's right.
All of that. Real estate will always go up.
No, without a doubt. It's even when it goes down. When we sold our house in Whitestone, made a killing. and then we bought up in Westchester. I swear, 2 weeks after I bought the market, just I lost 20% of my house immediately. But we weren't selling, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And we pretty much owned it outright, so it was knock yourself out. But and then you look at it today, it's like it never even happened.
Yeah.
It's like the
Like it
craziest.
never happened.
Like it never even happened. Now, I'm there now. Geez, Nina's 22, so I've been there now 20 years in the same place. Which is, and when I started buying, I bought every 2 years for that tax break. So I decided to do it that way. For my primary, we never fell in love until we found a place up in Westchester, and then it was just let's just stay the course and stay here.
Yeah.
Kids are going to make their bones, and they're going to enjoy life, and
that's
and they get the house or whatever.
And it's just going to go up in value.
And that's it.
Just like you said, just going to go up.
That's it.
Even no matter what kind of bump in the road that you have in real estate, and there's always bumps. It doesn't matter. We know the history of things. History repeats that. We get that.
Yep.
Hold it long term. You're good.
So, 2025, 2026. What can they see from the Masaitis team?
So right now, I really want to replace myself.
Okay.
So I have Josephine Fusco. She's been training with me for quite a long time. She's amazing. I'd really like to see her take over the team.
Okay.
And I think this is the direction that we're going to go. Of course, I'm going to still have involvement, lead generation, guidance. But once I'm able to achieve that, it's going to be, I think this is the right person for me.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think this is the right person. I know her for a very long time. She's very loyal. She's very loyal to me and my family. Okay. So I trust her.
What kind of production?
So right now she's probably she's only in the business for 2 years, but she in the sales business. She worked back end stuff for me for a long time.
Sure.
But now I said, you know what, you got to get your license. Let's do it this way. And she acts like she's doing this for 10 years.
Wow.
Really. She's doing
Good.
and she's going to be really, really successful.
So a couple more questions and then we got to go.
Yeah, sure.
Time
yeah,
flew.
we could probably do this for another 2 hours.
Yeah, easy. Are you one of those guys when you're training somebody, are you micromanaging them or you?
It depends. It depends on what I see from them.
Sure.
What I see from them. I'm not going to micromanage somebody that does not need to be micromanaged.
Of course not.
If you need me to get on it, yeah. And then if I got to micromanage something, that's just a break.
Yep.
I feel like that's a break. It's not going to work.
I agree. Yeah.
You need somebody who brings on their own responsibility. A lot of times, they do deserve the guidance. They
Absolutely.
do deserve the questioning, to help. But for somebody who needs to be micromanaged on, say, like one topic, and we got to go over that 10 times, and you're not getting it, that forces micromanagement, and that's what you don't want.
Yeah, definitely not. Anyone looking to sell, buy? They need to reach you. Where do they get you?
Yeah, you can call me on my phone, 516-241-4109.
Been a pleasure. Love you, Greg. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.